All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in at December 16th, 2019, and these three stocks are going to go crazy, but so is the stock market. It is going to be an exciting one. If you even saw last week on Friday, we had the trade deal, we had the Fed, even it was an interesting close near all-time highs. Even the volume has been extraordinarily high considering the price we're at, a lot of the fundamental stuff going on, and even with the Fed, we are looking for a pretty big setup here. So it's going to be very, very interesting this week. There's going to be three different plays, or at least three different sectors that I want to focus on, but we obviously need to see how this week plays out. We only played 2 plays last week, and they were pretty successful, 100% success rate when we look back at it, but at the same time now, we might make a few more plays this week as this opportunity sets up. So I want to go over all that, talk about the keys for tomorrow, break down what we're going to be looking about, and then some of the plays that we're already in. So you guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. Hopefully we see you there in the morning. All we ask is that you're positive and respectful, contribute, source, you know what to do. And then the most important thing you need to do, post your watch list below. Let us know what you're looking at, any plays, any ideas. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts even on some of these sectors and even the more specifics if you guys have specific plays on them. So let us get right into it. Obviously, the first thing we want to pay attention to is where we're at here in the marketplace. But one thing I'm going to say it off the bat here is, one, it's the follow-up for the trade news that we get is going to be very, very important this week. But mainly October 3rd or around this area and then beyond, we are going to replicate something like this. Again, this is what I have even in the keys, and you guys saw it if you guys have been paying attention here. My end of the year prediction is looking pretty good. This is what I was expected, but now when we mix in stuff like with the Fed, with the repos, and then comparing it to last October here, this is going to set up for an interesting move. So again, I think these industries that I'm going to talk about with some of these specific plays are going to go crazy, but now I'm also expecting the market in a way to gap up. I'm looking for one set of gap up, a slow little melt up, and then kind of pop up here. So again, we have 2 more weeks left in the year. We're going to see, and why I say this, because this was the same time around October 4th, the market was coming down. This was the last time they implemented that full-blown repo program, and we got to see the follow-up. Well, they're just doing it again here for December, so that could be a very, very big influence mixed in with the buybacks ending and then the Santa Claus rally. Things are shaping up. Again, even looking at the volume where we are at all-time highs. So putting this into context, this is what I'm going to be expecting this week, even coming in the end of the year. We only have 2 more weeks, so we're kind of playing it close, but there could be opportunities. And we saw it last week. Things move fast. So again, as this trade war develops, even from here or this update we got, get ready for fast moves. There's going to be some big movers, but now at the same time, not all names are going to go up. So even if we are bullish, there's going to be clear rotation. So this happened last October, and we've already kind of seen a little glimpse of it now. So I'm going to be keeping my eye out for there. So that's what we're going to talk about here with some of the plays. But then also day after day, coming in tomorrow, watch for a follow-up on the trade deal and more clarity, both on the positive direction as well as even counter news. You're going to start hearing stuff over this week saying this is what we're going to do with phase 1. They're going to start hinting at phase 2. They're going to say a bunch of positive things, and then Lighthizer or Mnuchin or somebody's going to walk back the comment and it's going to sound negative, but this is what's going to allow the markets to keep going up, and it's going to do this in a melt up fashion, but there is going to, again, be quick moves. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun, but watch out for that. And then lastly, there's still a bearish case scenario here that's on the table, and this has to do with the repos and everything else. Essentially, it would have to be really bad for us to kind of start going down here in the market, but again, and if it did do that, you would see that reflected in the currencies. But this is why this last 2 weeks, and even now coming in from now until like the middle of January, this is where we're going to see that repo effect and the money that the Fed is putting in through here to kind of stabilize it. So watch the currencies. That's kind of linked to the bigger theory I have if you haven't been following. But things are playing out pretty much how we expected. It's benefiting us if we swing trade, but things are moving quickly. So we got to keep our head in the game in that sense. So watch out for that. But that is pretty much it. Let us get into the plays. So the first one I'm going to talk about, because we brought this up here, McDonald's. This one because it relates the most. So again, I'm waiting for something to replicate October here where we will see a gap up in this melt up. But again, this is going to take us up to higher and higher highs. Crazy theory, right? But essentially during this same time, you look at the dates, you know, McDonald's barely benefited from that moment. But then as the market started ripping, this is where McDonald's had the sell off. You know, granted, it did have its earnings halfway through. You didn't see it really pick up the same. And now the same thing could even be said with Home Depot. Home Depot went up a little bit, but that's where Home Depot held up its kind of momentum. So I'm going to be watching for these names that rotate. The first one is going to be HD and McDonald's. I'm kind of categorizing them into their own spot. I am going to look to sell the premium like we've talked about. I'll probably have a play on it tomorrow or by the watch list tomorrow to give you guys kind of a specific idea. But these are the ones that could move fast, and I think these are, again, low volatility. The options are going to go crazy on here. So that's the first one. The next big play I want to be looking at this week that I think is really going to have a time, and news came out over the weekend that they are even considering halting Max 737 Max production. So that kind of changes around their whole story that what we saw with earnings. But last time the Fed came in through October, BA actually sold off, and it kind of makes sense. BA and some of these bigger companies have been leaders, so when the market was doing good, it was probably led up by here. So if there's going to be kind of this rotation, you might see some of the guys who've been killing it not do as well, but then some of the bigger names like Apple will. But watch Boeing. It's at this crucial 340 point. It keeps breaking out again for some of you YOLO demons out there, all the way down to the people trying to get a swing trade, to the people want to even go long on this. Boeing is setting up at an interesting point, to ignore it here again at this low. It's a triple bottom! Whatever you want to call it, there's an opportunity here, so I'm going to keep looking at it. I think Boeing's going to be fun. And then lastly, we are still in the Bank of America play. That's the last stock or industry I think that will go weird is financials. They play their own role in the mix of everything again, and now especially even with the repos, they might have a direct benefit, but the last meeting gave them room to run. We're going to see. We're still holding that 35 contract on Bank of America. We ghetto spreaded it, turned it to the 36, but those contracts come down just like the TLT during last time. These are contracts you might be able to flip. Remember, before those BACs went up, the day before they were at the same price we bought them, then they shot up, then they'll come back down. So a little riskier, more timing, but watch the bank stocks, watch Bank of America, and that's what I'm going to be watching there. So there's that. Everything else, the only play that really besides last week again, and these are ones I'm going to be watching, and people ask, can you still do these? You can. It's just going to offer a different risk reward. One of those is the Lululemon. We're still in that one, that Iron Condor. It's like $40. It's like $100 to make $400. We're up like 100 or 220 on it. It's like 40% so far. But I'm still in that one. We're going to be watching them. And again, they had earnings a few days, so watch them for a continuation. And then lastly, too, the Shopify's. A lot of people were confused like this. Now this is where it's going to kind of benefit us here. But we had that 385 call, and then we sold the 390 on the debit spread. I'm still holding that. We pretty much need it to go above 390 by expiration to get the max gain. It's worth like 100 or 200. It's up like 700% right now, so I think it's worth like 180, but not able to get the max gain because even though it's in the money, the contract we sold still has a lot of value, so we'll have to see. But I'm going to be watching them, and again, watch them in general too. But even looking back at them, they kind of already had the pre-melt up, but last October, they did pretty good for half of it, then they sold off. But then if you compare it to Roku, that's where Roku did really good, so Shopify didn't. They kind of switched off, so maybe Shopify might take the torch here, but watch Roku as well too. But those are the only plays we're in, and that's what we're going to be watching. Besides that, going to be keeping my eyes on all of those. And then the plays I kind of wanted last week, we were kind of waiting for the perfect time to strike. Some of them hit, but UNH is going to be the first one. I want to see how they are now post-Fed. Sometimes these healthcare and bios have a sell-off, so if they hold up, I'm going to like them, keep an eye on UNH. And then NVIDIA, we could have played that one. That was 1,000%er last week, but all of the chip makers are at good levels, so watch them and AMD. I'm going to keep my eye on them. These are probably going to be better plays Tuesday or Wednesday, considering they had such a good week last week. There might be a little bit more premium embedded in there, so keep your eyes out for those. Make sure you call them out on the chat, baby. And moving over here, I want to look at some biotech stocks. Don't forget Tandem. They had a biotech, or they had a drug approval. They popped up. They got halted. Another one was like, I think it was AstraZeneca was related to one of them, but it was ARQL. And really what I'm saying is watch out for, keep your eye out for buyouts. Keep your eye out for biotechs even this week too, even coming into the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that activity. But then besides that, don't forget about Facebook. We still have that play from last week. That was the $10 debit spread. But the fact that they kept even selling off on last Friday, that was telling us something. They had that news with the investigation being open. So watch them again. This could be one of those that rotates, but they did good last October. However, keep your eye on Facebook. That's one is going to be an interesting one to play. And I know because it has had strength in the fact that it really hasn't broken below these lows. Some of the really, really far out of the money contracts are actually surprisingly cheap on Facebook. So that could open up a bunch of different strategies, whether you want to even sell calls, buy longer term puts, sell covered calls. There's a lot of stuff. But watch Facebook. I think it's getting actually really interesting here because it really hasn't done much over the last few months. So if it starts getting back into those days where it does start moving, that could be good. Then watch Tesla. They're at the high. I said last week with the spread, the credit spread, these could have been good. The same thing could exist here, maybe even an iron condor. We'll see if they break out, maybe even a butterfly. But I like Tesla, again, especially in a moment where there could be rotation. Some of these companies that have a weird spot with how they fit into the market in their industry, or even just the volatile ones, we want to watch what rotates and what doesn't. So watch them. Then finally, don't forget about FedEx earnings. That's this week. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I think it's gotten a little expensive. It's had some crazy moves, but we will see. I liked it a few weeks ago. I waited to get the plays. The premiums are high, but we're going to take a look at those this week. I'll even give you guys an update if I do decide to play it. But keep an eye out for FedEx. And I'm also going to be watching some stuff I want. I like these to trade. The contracts are expensive, but I also want to get some of these for the long-term portfolio. Target, they're still at an interesting spot, lower volatility again, so watch them. And again, we're watching out for the long-term portfolio. Then Costco, they had that follow-up earnings. This is another one that could we trade? Yes, but I also want to think about adding this to the long-term as well too. And that's pretty much it. That's your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're hydrated, healthy, ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. Keep your head in the game and be ready to react this week, but make sure you control the budget, people. It is going to be a wild one. You're going to see a lot of stuff. I still think there's a lot of room on the table for some curveballs. It's going to be an exciting one. Let's close out this year. Let's go into 2020. We already started. Hopefully you guys are ready. Don't force it. Don't pressure yourself, because guess what? You're going to have another week after that, another week after that, another year after that, another year. Let's go get those long-term portfolios, the cold losing. We'll see you in the morning. Let's go!